You see, most men chase money like dogs chasing a carriage, blind, desperate, and unaware that the one holding the reins controls their fate. This video will expose the brutal truth: wealth without power is a leash around your own neck. You will either command money, or it will command you. The world is not ruled by those who possess money. It is ruled by those who decide where money flows. Power precedes wealth. It molds the very conditions through which wealth can exist. To chase money without understanding power is to build a palace on sand. Grand for a moment, but doomed to crumble under the first storm of manipulation. In this realm of human nature, strength lies not in gold, but in the capacity to control perception, to shape alliances, to command obedience without raising a voice. Those who grasp this law become architects of empires. Those who ignore it become the bricks beneath them. Tonight, we descend into the psychology that separates the masters of fortune from its slaves. They told you that money equals freedom. That with enough of it, no one could tell you what to do, who to obey, or how to live. But they lied. Because the truth few dare to face, is that money alone liberates no one. It merely replaces one master with another. You see, poor man is ruled by hunger. The rich man, by fear of losing what he owns. And between the two, neither is truly free. Ask yourself, how many powerful men have fallen, not because they lacked wealth, but because they mistook it for control? The merchant who flatters the prince, believing his gold will shield him. The ruler who trusts his treasurer, forgetting that the hand that manages the coins often commands the crown. History is littered with their corpses, silent reminders that wealth without power is a gilded cage. Consider the Medici of Florence, bankers to kings, wealth beyond imagination. And yet, their rise was not secured by gold. It was secured by influence. By controlling the debts of monarchs, by shaping the politics of popes, they transformed currency into command. They understood that money itself is powerless. It gains strength only when it bends the will of others. Most men never see this. They chase currency, not command. They believe freedom comes from having more, not from controlling the system that defines more. That is why they work for men who think differently, because those who understand power don't run after gold. They build structures where gold runs toward them. Look closely at the modern world. The businessman who seems free is bound to his investors. The influencer who flaunts wealth is chained to the algorithms that decide his reach. Even the billionaire bends, not to kings, but to governments, shareholders, and the invisible hand of public opinion. Freedom, you see, is not measured in coins but in leverage. The man with money must spend. The man with power makes others spend for him. So what is wealth, truly? A tool. A mirror. A temporary illusion of significance. Without power to defend it, it's nothing more than a shiny offering to those more cunning than you. When a lion devours a gazelle, it is not hunger that grants it victory, it is dominance. The gazelle may have eaten first, yet it dies. Likewise, many men earn, before they understand the game, only to be devoured by those who see further, colder, and deeper. And that's the tragedy of modern ambition. Everyone wants to earn, but no one learns to rule. You can see this everywhere, in offices, in politics, even in relationships. People think money will give them power over others. But if you depend on someone else's approval system or emotion to maintain your wealth, you are already under their rule. Psychologists call it dependency reinforcement. When humans believe they control something external, but in reality, external thing dictates their behavior. Money is the perfect instrument for this illusion. It keeps you chasing, competing, comparing, all while the true elite moves silently, manipulating value itself. So ask yourself, are you chasing money to escape control? Or have you already accepted control disguised as opportunity? A man once told me, I just want enough to never answer to anyone again. And I asked him, who do you think prints the money you're chasing? Freedom does not come from owning. It comes from commanding what others own, from setting the rules, not merely playing by them, from understanding that money can be taken, taxed, or stolen, but influence cannot. When power speaks, even the wealthy listen. That's why kings taxed merchants, not the other way around. That's why emperors conquered gold mines, not banks. And that's why, to this day, you may hold currency in your hand, but never the authority behind it. The illusion of wealth as freedom persists because it's comforting. It gives you something visible to chase. It keeps your eyes on the reward, not on the one who built the maze. But deep down, you know it's a lie. Because no matter how much you earn, you still feel the presence of something, or someone, above you. That invisible force that decides the rules, the laws, the markets, the meaning of value itself. You sense it, but you can't name it. You obey it without realizing. And that, my friend, is the essence of control. Wealth is the bait. Power is the trap. And until you understand who sets the bait, you will forever run in circles, rich but ruled. You've been taught to measure wealth in numbers, in accounts, assets, possessions. But the real elite count something far rarer. They measure their fortune in obedience. Money may buy silence, but power commands loyalty. And in the hierarchy of human nature, loyalty is a far more profitable investment than gold. You see, the world doesn't run on currency. It runs on control. The silent exchange of submission for protection, of obedience for opportunity. Power is the invisible currency that buys everything else, because it governs perception itself. The powerful man doesn't need to demand respect. It's given to him before he speaks. He doesn't beg for attention, the world bends to offer it. And that, right there, is a form of wealth you can't measure. But you can feel. Look back through history. Julius Caesar was not the richest man in Rome. But his name outweighed the treasuries of the Senate because he controlled what others believed about him. He understood that perception builds reality, and that once people believe you have power, they will act as if you do. From that moment onward, you no longer need to chase. You simply command. Power multiplies itself through perception, while money exhausts itself through spending. The rich buy influence, the powerful become influence. But here lies the tragedy of modern ambition. Most people can't distinguish between having resources and being a resource. They accumulate, thinking it makes them untouchable, not realizing that whoever can shape their behavior already owns them. Think of the world today. A billionaire may hold wealth, but a politician can destroy him with a signature. A celebrity may hold fame, but a social algorithm can erase him with a single tweak. And yet, neither the politician nor the algorithm needs to flaunt their strength, because true power is invisible. It works best when it's unseen, unfelt, but always obeyed. Psychologists call this symbolic authority. When people obey not because they're forced to, but because they've internalized the belief that resistance is futile. It's how religions endure, how governments survive, how corporations dominate. They convince you that compliance is your choice, and you call it freedom. That is the genius of power. It doesn't need to show its teeth. It only needs to make you think it has them. So, ask yourself, whose authority do you submit to every day without question? Who defines what is acceptable, profitable, or moral for you? Because once you answer that, you'll see who truly profits from your obedience. The most successful manipulators never show you chains. They offer comfort. They let you feel important while guiding your every decision. It's a form of ownership wrapped in validation. The strategist knows this. He doesn't compete with others for resources. He makes others compete for his approval. He understands that in the game of power, perception is the mint, and the minds of others are the coins. Remember the Borgias, that infamous family of Renaissance Rome. They didn't dominate through vast treasure, but through their mastery of influence. Whispers, alliances, rumors, marriages. Every connection a thread in an invisible net. Their enemies thought they were fighting individuals, when in truth, they were entangled in a web of perception so tight that every move only strengthened the Borgias' control. That's how power operates quietly, strategically unseen until it's too late. Now, think of your own life. How many of your decisions come from genuine choice? And how many from social pressure, fear, or image? You might think you're independent, but dependence rarely announces itself. It hides beneath ambition, behind the desire to be liked, respected, accepted. The man of power is not driven by such needs. He uses them in others. He sees that humans crave direction, and whoever provides it rules them. It's not about domination through force. It's about the subtle art of making others believe your will is their own. To guide without appearing to guide, to command without issuing orders, to shape without leaving fingerprints, that is the purest form of power. It leaves no trace, only results. And that's why wealth without it is fragile. Because money can make men listen, but only power can make them obey. Power is the silent architect of every fortune, every empire, every legacy that endures. And the moment you understand that influence is a form of currency, one that appreciates the more you use it, you stop trading coins and start minting belief. So, stop counting your money. Start counting your reach, your ability to move hearts, to bend decisions, to make others act in your favor without resistance. That is your true balance sheet. Every powerful man knows this law. You can either work for money or make money work for you. But the rarest of men discover something greater: how to make people work for them, willingly, proudly, even lovingly. That, my friend, is the essence of leverage. Leverage is the art of achieving great results with minimal force. It's how one man controls armies, one voice moves nations, and one idea shapes centuries. The strong may rule through strength, but the intelligent rule through systems that magnify their strength infinitely. You've been told to work hard. The powerful work strategically. They understand that direct effort is the path of the slave. Control of effort is the path of the master. Consider Alexander the Great. He didn't conquer the world with his sword alone. He conquered it through his generals, men whose ambition was tied to his own glory. They fought his wars for him because he made his vision their destiny. That is leverage. The multiplication of one will through the ambitions of others. Now look around you. This principle hasn't changed. Only the weapons have. Corporations, governments, religions, they all thrive on the same psychology, making others act in alignment with their will. The CEO doesn't create every product. The president doesn't write every law. The Pope doesn't perform every sermon. They control systems that magnify their intent. That's why they endure while others exhaust themselves chasing coins and applause. Power, at its core, is never about doing everything. It's about ensuring that everything is done in your favor. Ask yourself, how many people do you serve every day without realizing it? Whose systems are you maintaining? Whose vision are you advancing with your labor, your clicks, your loyalty, your silence? You think you're independent, but the truly powerful never need to tell you what to do. They design the environment so that you do it yourself. This is the highest form of leverage, invisible control, when you can structure incentives, desires, and fears in such a way that others act as your instruments. While believing they are free, you've achieved mastery over the human machine. History bows to those who mastered this. The church built empires by leveraging guilt. Monarchs ruled nations by leveraging fear. Merchants of Venice controlled kings by leveraging debt. And today, corporations control millions by leveraging attention. Look at social media, the grand experiment of modern manipulation. Every post, every notification, every like is a lever. Each one nudges behavior, alters perception, and keeps you inside a system you don't control. You may think you're chasing connection, but you're fueling algorithms that harvest your attention for profit. That is leverage. Digital, psychological, total. Leverage doesn't always wear the face of tyranny. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it motivates you, flatters you, seduces you into obedience. The best manipulation never feels like control, it feels like choice. Psychologists understand this perfectly. They call it operant conditioning, rewarding behavior that benefits the controller until it becomes automatic. It's how society tames individuals and how rulers tame society. Through reward and fear, approval and shame, humanity becomes a machine that sustains its own captivity. And yet, The Machiavellian thinker sees this not with despair, but with curiosity. He asks, why serve when I can design the levers? Why struggle when I can shape the conditions of struggle itself? Leverage is not about cruelty. It's about intelligence, knowing that raw force creates resistance, while subtle systems create dependency. The wise ruler makes himself necessary. Once others depend on your presence, your approval, your resources, you own them, not through chains, but through need. That's the secret every empire has guarded. Don't dominate people. Make them unable to live without you. So, how do you begin to create leverage in your own life? Start by shifting your focus from effort to influence. Ask yourself, what can I control indirectly? Who responds to my actions, my approval, my withdrawal? Where can I create systems that work even while I sleep? The man of leverage builds mechanisms. He designs networks, alliances, and dependencies that serve his long-term interest. He never wastes effort on what can be delegated. He never fights battles that can be won through others' ambition. And above all, he never exposes the strings. For once people see how they're being moved, the illusion collapses. But while they remain blind, their devotion becomes eternal. The world rewards not the hardest worker, but the one who can harness the work of thousands. Not the loudest voice, but the one that scripts what others repeat. Not the richest man, but the one who decides how wealth circulates. That is the silent victory of power. To rule without ruling. To move the world while appearing still. To sit behind the curtain, pulling levers that decide the fate of nations, companies, and souls. There is one thing that separates those who rule from those who serve. It isn't strength. It isn't wealth. It's detachment. The man who feels too much becomes predictable. And in the game of power, predictability is death. You can observe this in every structure of control. The manipulator, the ruler, the strategist. They win not because they feel nothing, but because they master when and how to feel. Emotion, when controlled, is a weapon. Emotion, when uncontrolled, is a leash. Most people are prisoners of their own hearts. They mistake sensitivity for depth, reaction for authenticity, compassion for wisdom. But empathy without control turns into weakness, and passion without distance becomes slavery. Power demands something colder, the ability to act without being moved. History offers countless lessons. Take Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor of Rome. He faced betrayal, plague, and war. Yet his writings reveal no panic, no hatred, only discipline of the mind. He knew that emotion could not serve the throne, only judgment could. He ruled his feelings before ruling his empire. Now compare him to Nero, consumed by emotion, led by vanity, blinded by fear. His passions turned the empire into a stage for chaos. The difference between order and collapse often lies in how one handles their inner storms. You see, emotion clouds perception. When anger rises, when desire burns, reason fades. When fear speaks, courage retreats. And so, the man who can detach, who can pause while others panic, becomes a god among mortals. This is not coldness, it is control. A surgeon cannot tremble before the wound he cuts. A general cannot mourn before the war is won. Likewise, the strategist cannot afford to drown in his own feelings. He observes them, understands them, then uses them, just as he uses others, because the truth is, human emotion is the most predictable pattern in existence. Anger can be provoked. Love can be faked. Fear can be amplified. Hope can be sold. The masses are moved by invisible strings, and the man who knows how to pull them need never raise his voice. Psychologists call this emotional regulation. But in the realm of power, it's something deeper. A kind of internal warfare where you conquer the wildest territory of all yourself. If others can provoke you, they can control you. If they can offend you, they can silence you. And if they can tempt you, they can destroy you. Ask yourself, how many of your decisions were truly rational? How many times did anger make you speak when silence would have been victory? How often did desire make you trust someone who later betrayed you? Each time, emotion triumphed over reason, and you paid the price. But detachment, when mastered, reverses the equation. You begin to see what others cannot. You notice the tremors of fear behind confidence, the manipulation behind kindness, the strategy behind outrage. And when everyone else is drowning in feeling, you stand still, calm, deliberate, invincible. That's why the powerful often appear cold. It's not that they lack emotion. It's that they refuse to be enslaved by it. They know that pity can be exploited, that rage can be baited, that love can be weaponized. So they remain composed, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Remember César Borgia, a prince admired even by those who feared him. He smiled when others would have struck. He forgave when vengeance seemed natural. He delayed when passion demanded action. And by doing so, he disarmed his enemies while they burned themselves in emotion. He understood that the one who controls his reactions controls outcomes. In modern life, this principle remains untouched. Your boss provokes you to reveal weakness. Your competitor flaunts success to trigger envy. The world tests your emotions daily, because those who react are easier to manipulate. Every headline, every argument, every temptation is a probe for your buttons. So here's the cold truth. To rise above manipulation, you must become emotionally unpredictable. You must be able to smile at insults, walk away from seductions, and remain silent when attacked. That silence terrifies manipulators, because they cannot control what they cannot read. Detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop depending on feeling to make decisions. You still experience emotion, but as an observer, not a servant. You can use it when needed, discard it when dangerous, and store it when strategic. This inner discipline is rare, but it's the foundation of every empire, every legacy, every unshakable mind. Because when you master your emotions, no threat can intimidate you, and no desire can enslave you. Power does not begin with force. It begins with perception. The ruler is not obeyed because he commands. He is obeyed because people believe he must be. Authority exists first in the minds of men and only later in their laws. If you can shape perception, you can shape reality itself. You see, people don't follow truth. They follow appearances. They don't seek justice. They seek confidence. And they rarely question power that looks legitimate. It is why perception, not substance, builds empires. Ask yourself, do you admire the wise or the confident? Do you trust the competent or the consistent? Human nature bows not to merit, but to image. The illusion of control often matters more than control itself. Take the example of the ancient pharaohs. Their power didn't rest solely on soldiers or gold. It rested on divine illusion, the belief that they were gods in human form, a belief so strong that it made millions obey without question, build without rebellion, and die without hesitation. That is the architecture of authority, to construct belief so deeply that obedience becomes instinct. Modern rulers are no different. They've replaced divine right with social proof, charisma, and reputation. Politicians rehearse empathy. CEOs perform confidence. Influencers stage authenticity. The masses, blind to the construction, call it leadership. But the strategist knows better. He understands that people see what they want to see, and he gives them exactly that. If they crave strength, he shows dominance. If they crave compassion, he mirrors it. If they crave order, he becomes its symbol. To master perception is to master projection, to create an identity that serves your purpose rather than your truth. Truth, after all, is fragile. It demands explanation. Perception needs none. It spreads, multiplies, and solidifies long before anyone questions its foundation. Think of the church in the Middle Ages. Its real power wasn't in scripture. It was in spectacle. The cathedrals, the rituals, the robes, all visual instruments designed to make divinity tangible. People feared questioning it, because everything about it looked eternal, and when something looks eternal, it becomes untouchable. This same law governs modern influence, reputation, brand, public image. They are the cathedrals of today. If you appear powerful, people will treat you as such. And through their behavior, you become what you only pretended to be. The illusion, reinforced by belief, becomes reality. Psychologists call this the halo effect. Once people associate you with one powerful quality, confidence, competence, dominance, Their minds fill in the rest. They assume you are capable in all things. You become larger than life in their perception, even if you're only human behind the curtain. That's how perception becomes leverage. You no longer need to prove yourself. Your presence alone dictates reactions. Your silence becomes authority. Your mistakes are seen as mysteries rather than failures. Because once perception is secured, reality bends to protect it. But here lies the danger. The architect of perception must never believe his own creation. Once you mistake illusion for truth, you become its prisoner. History is filled with kings who believed their own myth, only to fall because they stopped cultivating it. The illusion must be maintained with precision. It must evolve as the audience changes. To remain powerful, you must remain believable. Take the example of Napoleon. He understood the power of image so deeply that he once said, "A soldier will fight long and hard for a bit of colored ribbon." He dressed modestly among his men, spoke as one of them, yet appeared divine to the world. He crafted perception with every gesture, and it turned ordinary men into zealots. But the moment his image cracked, his empire followed. You see, once perception falters, authority evaporates faster than smoke. That's why the wise ruler builds not only image, but layers of it: confidence, mystery, detachment, presence. Each one reinforces the other, forming a fortress around his name. In your own life, this law holds true. People treat you based on what you project, not what you are. Appear decisive, and your hesitation will go unnoticed. Appear calm, and chaos will seem to move around you. Appear certain, and others will lend you their certainty. Because humans seek anchors, and when they find someone who looks like one, they cling. That is the secret of leadership. Not truth, not morality, but the ability to appear unshakable in a world of uncertainty. Perception, then, is not deception. It's construction, a deliberate design of how the world must see you. It's the invisible architecture that holds every throne, every reputation, every empire together. There is a moment in every game of power when wealth, charm, and strategy cease to matter. When all illusions dissolve, and only one question remains: who commands and who obeys? That is the cold equation of dominance. You can disguise it with civility, morality, or reason, but beneath every relationship, personal, political, or economic, lies this law: one will must yield to another. It has nothing to do with fairness, and everything to do with force. Not physical force, but psychological. The invisible strength of conviction that bends others to your design. Human nature is not democratic. It is hierarchical by instinct. Even in circles that claim equality, one person always becomes the reference point, the one who sets the tone, the pace, the emotional climate. Observe any group long enough, and you will find its unspoken ruler. He may not speak the loudest, but his silence weighs the most. That is dominance, not noise, not aggression, but gravity, the kind of presence that makes others adjust themselves around you. Consider Genghis Khan. He united tribes that had spent centuries slaughtering each other. Not because he offered wealth or peace, but because his will was absolute. He radiated certainty so fierce that men found submission easier than defiance. They followed him not merely out of loyalty, but out of awe. That is the nature of true power. It compels obedience through presence, not persuasion. Now look at your world today. Dominance still rules. It simply wears new masks. In business, it's the executive whose calm voice ends every argument. In relationships, it's the partner who cares the least yet controls the most. In politics, it's the figure who projects inevitability, who makes even his enemies admit he will win. Dominance operates through perception, timing, and an unbreakable internal logic. It's not about shouting, "I'm in control." It's about never needing to. The truly dominant man doesn't chase power. He is power. His confidence becomes a contagion, his certainty becomes the law others unconsciously obey. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon. They call it social dominance orientation. The tendency of some individuals to seek and maintain hierarchical order. But what they often miss is that this instinct is not evil, it's essential. Without it, chaos reigns. leadership, authority, discipline, all are born from the primal need for dominance. Yet most people misunderstand it. They think dominance is cruelty. They confuse tyranny with control. But true dominance is not about destroying others. It's about defining them. It gives structure to chaos, direction to emotion, order to confusion. The dominant individual becomes the axis around which the uncertain revolve. And that is why money without dominance collapses. Because wealth can buy attention, but it cannot command respect. People may take your orders, but they will secretly despise you if they sense weakness. They may serve you for profit, but not for power, and when fortune shifts, as it always does, they will turn on you without hesitation. Dominance, on the other hand, survives loss. Even stripped of possessions, the dominant man retains his authority. He doesn't beg, he doesn't explain. He commands through composure, through the unshakable belief that he is meant to rule. And because belief is contagious, the world eventually agrees. History remembers this pattern. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon, he wasn't yet emperor. He had fewer men, fewer resources, and greater enemies. But he crossed anyway, not to fight Rome, but to claim it. That moment of unflinching conviction transformed a general into a god. Because dominance begins the instant you refuse to bow to fear. Ask yourself, where in your life do you still bow? To opinion, to emotion, to the illusion of security. Each time you yield to something weaker than your potential, you surrender a piece of your authority. And every surrender makes the next easier. Dominance is not about controlling others first. It's about mastering the chaos within yourself. To stand firm when others panic. To remain composed when others crave validation. To choose silence when others beg to be understood. The man who commands himself commands the world. But this mastery comes at a price. You will be misunderstood. The weak will call you arrogant. The sentimental will call you cruel. Let them. Their opinions are the currency of the powerless. Dominance is not for those who need to be loved. It is for those who choose to be obeyed. Because the world does not remember the kind. It remembers the decisive. And in every era, one truth remains unchanged when wealth and power collide. It is not gold that decides the outcome, it is will. Money may purchase comfort, but only dominance secures destiny. Power is not taken by force. It is granted, silently, by those too blind to see they've surrendered it. To control people without them knowing, you do not attack their strength. You exploit their certainty. You let them believe they are free, while their choices serve your design. This is the highest art of influence, to move others without motion, to bend reality without raising your voice, to rule the hearts of men while appearing merely to observe them. Ask yourself, how many of your decisions are truly your own? And how many were placed in your path by someone who understood this game better than you? Reflect on that. Because the moment you see the strings, you either become the puppet master, or remain the puppet. If this truth cuts deep, let it. Comment your thoughts below. Subscribe for more Machiavellian strategies. And share this video, so that others may awaken to the game they never knew they were playing.